If your people walk away thinking, I think I could do this, and I actually feel inspired to do it, you've done your job.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients Podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Dr. Len Tao. And before we begin, I just want to point out our sponsors or give kudos to our sponsors, both Dental Intel and the Doc Sites, for their support. I really appreciate it. Today's episode is entitled Messages That Move People, 3 Ways That Public Speaking and Presentation Skills Can Grow Your Practice or Advance Your Skills as a Dental Professional. I'm really excited today to have us for the second time, and there's very few people who have been on my podcast more than one time. This person's going to be on it for a second time, so I want you to stop what you're doing. I want you to raise the volume and listen to this very important information that this amazing speaker and coach is going to talk about. She recently came to my house to do some speaking coaching with me as I'm speaking at my event. As many of you know, it's Supercharge Your Dental Practice. It is September 29th and 30th in Delray Beach, Florida. And obviously, when you listen to this recording, you'll hear more about that as well. But please welcome to the Raving Patients Podcast, Katherine Eitel Belt. Katherine, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me back for a second time. I feel honored, and I'm excited for our conversation today.
I'm excited too. And what I want to do first is just read a brief introduction about who you are. So she is the founder of Lion Speak Communications Coaching and an international speaker, author, and performance coach, best known for helping professionals develop courageous, unscripted conversations with patients, clients, coworkers, and audiences. She's also a certified speaking professional, which is an NSA, which is a National Speaking Association, earned designation achieved by less than 10% of professional speakers worldwide. So you're talking to someone that knows what she's doing. So open up your ears and pay attention. So Katherine, this is your second time on the podcast. The first time I think we discussed how to talk to people or discuss things with people, patients. Let's get into why you're here, what we're going to be focusing our conversation on.
Yeah. So, we really noticed through our coaching, like I did with you, with professional speakers, that there were a lot of dental professionals that were interested in professional speaking skills and what it might be able to do for their career. And that encouraged us to bring some of our coaching and expand who we're talking to about it. And we've really seen some opportunities within the dental field for upgrading professional speaking skills. So I'm anxious to dive in.
And I had told you that, in my opinion, it's not only for professional speakers, but it's also to become a better case presenter to your audiences or your patients in the office, which I think is a key thing that a lot of us don't do very well.
Yeah, audience is an audience. They're the recipient of the message. And so anytime you improve your speaking and communication skills, you don't improve one section, you improve it across the board. So no doubt about it. Perfect.
So let's jump right into what we want to talk about. So the first thing, which is the title of it, is what are 3 ways dental professionals can use speaking presentation skills to grow their practice and their careers?
The first way we've seen dental professionals really use an upgraded or up-leveled speaking skills has been when they've been passionate about something. So sometimes a hygienist or a dentist will be really passionate about using the laser or sleep dentistry or, some particular aspect of their career that they have enjoyed researching and enjoyed learning and becoming an expert in. And they've solved some issues or problems. They've broken through some roadblocks. And that information, that expertise, that passion is useful to the rest of the people in our industry. And so many dental professionals have taken on speaking to their colleagues and constituents in the field as a side gig. They're still practicing dentistry, still a dental assistant or a dentist, and they're practicing, but as a side gig, they have decided to take their passion on the road. And many have never had training to step onto the stage or to step in front of their study club or to, present to their colleagues. And so That's one way that a dental professional might consider incorporating dental skills is if they have a passion that they really want to share and make the road easier for their colleagues. You've done that a lot, Lynn, with things that you feel passionate about, that you've just made the road easier for all of us in the field by speaking about it and helping us learn. So that's one way. The second way is if you're an owner, a practice owner, or you are a team lead, you have a team of people that are looking to you for direction. And every time you stand up before them, whether that's at an annual event before your whole company, or which we help our dental clients do that a lot in something we call a calibration retreat. We facilitate a lot of those. And one of the things we insist on in the calibration retreat is getting the owners ready to stand up before their team, claim their future, articulate their future, and get clarity for the team around that. And also to present and clarify their cultural standards, what they expect from their team and what their team is signing up for every time they walk across the threshold, right? So there's that. Or if you're let's say you're the hygiene team leader for all the hygienists in your practice, you have a group of hygienists that are looking to you for how should they advance their skills? How should they be communicating with their patients? And when you take the front of that room to guide, to train, to inspire, and align your team, you need to know some of these public speaking tips and tricks that really, they do a couple of things. They make you influential, they make you compelling, your message compelling, and they make you interesting so that people want to listen and are inspired. So there's that, and that's second way. And then the third way is that even if you're scared of the stage, you have no aspirations to being a public speaker, you aren't a team leader yet, but you look at your career and you hope someday that you will be at the top of the list when an opportunity arises in your practice. When opportunities open up for leadership positions, for any sort of position like that, if you've already demonstrated within just a regular team meeting that you have the ability to clarify your message and inspire people around it, you're going to find yourself at the top of that list, that promotion list. So I think wherever you are in your dental career, public speaking is a great skill. Warren Buffett said, I love this quote. He said, of all of the skills that he would recommend, the number one skill he recommended for successful professionals was the art of public speaking for professionals. So, pretty smart man saying, get the skill.
Talking about public speaking, I don't know if I don't think I told this story at all on my podcast. I was a terrible public speaker. I was nervous. I hated going into groups. I still remember this was in sixth grade. And I had to give a presentation on the inner ear. And I got in front of this audience and I literally flubbed my lines like you couldn't imagine. And it ruined me for a very long time. And it wasn't until I became an expert in marketing and I started speaking about marketing that I became really comfortable in front of an audience. And now you can see I've been speaking since September of 2011. So it's been 12 years. I've given over almost 500 presentations now. So, I've had many coaches coach me. So I'm not the most seasoned. From a speaking perspective, I do my own thing, put it that way. But I feel like I'm a seasoned professional and, it's opened my career up obviously in ways I can never have imagined before. So. Right.
And you really hit on a couple of things that are worth highlighting. One is early experiences around speaking, like you said, when you're very young, can really form you. And if it wasn't a good experience somewhere along the way, you may be carrying a fear that is easier than you might think to overcome and would do just what you said, open up opportunities that you can't, really enjoyable opportunities that you can't even imagine, not to mention lucrative. So there's that. Also, you mentioned that you do your own thing. And, you said in my introduction that we're known, Lion Speak and me in particular, are known as the unscripted communications coach because I don't want, whether we're training people to communicate with patients better on the phone or in the office, or whether we're training leaders within the team, or whether we're training speakers and trainers, we don't want them to sound like Katherine. That's the last thing we want you to sound like. We don't want Lynn to be a carbon copy of Katherine. I want Lynn to be the best version of Lynn on that stage or at the front of the room or for your own team. So, I mean, right now we're celebrating Passover season. And so when you bring a big group, a big family group together and you're going to have a toast or say something or, perform a eulogy at a funeral of somebody that was really important in your life, there are lots of opportunities in life to take the front of the room. And it's so rewarding to know a few basics so that you deliver that in a way that's meaningful for you and meaningful for the audience and is authentic to your voice, your humor, your personality. That's what we want. And that's, Lynn, why you've done so well, because you do show up as Lynn. And it makes you believable, likable, and trustworthy to the audience. They don't want to see a memorized, overly rehearsed performance. They want to really see a conversation from an expert who's really passionate about their subject, and that's how you show up.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You alluded to just now about eulogy at a funeral, and my mom passed away in 2005. Yeah, November of 2005, which was well prior to my speaking career, and I didn't even have my own dental office at that point. And I was asked to eulogize her, and I wasn't comfortable speaking. I really wasn't, like I said. So I chose not to. Unfortunately, my dad passed away in June of 2021, so just about 2 years ago now. And when I did eulogize him, he was a dentist. He was one of my mentors. He was my hero. One of the first things I said, I had the opportunity to do this, 16 years ago. I declined because I wasn't comfortable public speaking. Now I'm very comfortable public speaking, so I'm glad to be able to eulogize my dad. So it's really funny that you said that.
It's a really good example of something meaningful for you, meaningful for your family. You're probably one of the best people to do that. And it's just a few skills. And maybe we could talk, Lynn, a little bit about how would someone overcome their fear? Because we've heard that it's one of the top. Matter of fact, I think it was Mark Twain. I might have that wrong, but I think it was Mark Twain that said 50% of all speakers are terrified of all people are terrified of the stage, and the other 50% are liars. So it's a common fear. And I think we have a unique approach that your listeners might benefit from in terms of managing your fear. I've also, like you, received a lot of coaching over the years from some amazing speaker coaches. And I've heard many ways to calm your nerves. Take the stairs before you speak, do some jumping jacks, do some deep breathing, yoga breaths, all of these different tricks to manage the symptoms of stress. And while they do address the symptoms, what they don't address is the cause. And so how we coach our students is to really address the cause, and then you don't have to deal with the symptoms. The cause is fight or flight. The cause is adrenaline. And the only reason that we pump adrenaline into our bloodstream that causes the shaky hands and the dry mouth and the knocky knees and, the sweaty palms and all of those things, the reason that we pump it is we perceive a threat. So what's happening is we see that audience, people start to come into the room, whether that's for a team meeting or it's for a speech on the stage, it doesn't matter, or a funeral. They're coming in, and suddenly our mind says, this is a body of judgment, and probably harsh judgment. And I don't like it. We're not safe here. We're likely to be judged harshly. Let's get the heck out of here. And that's that fight or flight, which we can't do either. If you want to deliver that eulogy, if you want to align that team at that meeting, if you want to step on that stage and deliver a commanding performance, you can't fight the audience and you can't run from it. You've got to stay there. And so this adrenaline is pumping. It's got nowhere to go. And that's why our hands start to shake, because we're not running. We're not fighting. It's got to go somewhere. And it just makes our bodies a mess. But if we could reframe in our mind what that group of people represented, if we could move it from a body of judgment and our mind could believe that it is a body of need, it's a body of pain. They're here because they need direction. They want answers. They want breakthroughs. They want relief for the things that frustrate them. Like your audiences, Lynn, they want marketing that makes sense. They want a way that's not hard. They've got a full-time job. They don't need 100. They want an easy way to get good reviews, to get more new patients through the door, easier, quicker, more doable. And so that's a need. And if Lynn can walk on that stage and have a conversation with the audience, tell some stories, show some examples, talk about how it's gone for him and other clients, if you can deliver that and convince this audience it's easier than they think, it's more doable than they think, they actually can get the thing they want, you've actually soothed their pain. You've actually put a little ointment on their wound, you know? And when we move from judgment, which puts us in that primitive, amygdala part of our brain, when we move to the idea of need, we move to the prefrontal cortex, which is where empathy resides in executive function. And when we move to that and we ignite empathy, actually what gets released in our body rather than adrenaline are those good feeling chemicals, serotonin, some of those oxytocin, those things that calm us and create that feeling of, I want to help. I like helping these people. So we coach our coachees to start closing their eyes for a few minutes for weeks, every day for weeks prior to their delivery of this presentation, to close their eyes and imagine the specific pain points that this audience will have and what it is that they are there to give some solutions for and to give some clarity and hope around. And when they start to do that, then when they finally do walk on that stage, that feels familiar. That feels familiar. And now when I feel my nerves, which I do sometimes, I bless it. I say, thank you, that you just let me know, that little butterfly in my stomach or those little jitters, just let me know that I've got this framed wrong. Let me reframe it to a body of need. They need me. They want it. They want the relief. And I'm just here. I'm not here to perform. I'm here to serve. My only job is not to be perfect. It's just to be authentic and to do what I can to ease their pain. And it has really made a huge difference for not only me, but for the speakers that we've coached. So
I think that's awesome. And, you talked about, fear or nerves. I don't get nervous anymore, no matter what the size is. I just do my thing because it's me and I'm up there talking about things I'm very confident about. But you'll remember there was only one time I know that I was nervous and you were there. And that was that Jumpstart. We did our 7 or 10 minute speech and I memorized for the first time in my life. I don't memorize, I just go up there and entertain. And I memorized and I forgot my lines. And if you remember, it's the only time I've ever been on stage in my entire life and had nothing to say. And you were there. You said it's not uncommon. It happens. But obviously in front of all of my colleagues as in speakers, it was a very embarrassing situation for me. But I was able to recover. But I think I stood up there for a couple of minutes saying nothing because I couldn't remember exactly what I was doing. That was the only time I can remember I was nervous.
And every speaker, first of all, I commend you for sharing that experience because I think that's the thing people most fear and keeps a lot of professionals with a lot of good information to share from sharing it. So number one, you're a beautiful example that it didn't kill you and it didn't stop you. And look at what you've gone on to do. So you will survive it. But here's why you had it. And that's avoidable. I've coached a lot of people that are in competitive speeches. So a lot of people in Dentistry's Got Talent or Spotlight on Speaking or Vanessa's event. And those are short speeches. And I've noticed that my coachees fall into about 50-50 about it in two groups. 50% of them love just jotting down an outline, that's probably your way, just jot down an outline so that it flows and it makes sense and I'm organized. But I'm really just going to conversationally go through the outline. The only thing I'm committing to is that. Versus the other 50% feels a lot better, especially in a short speech, writing it out word for word. So what I used to originally, years ago when we started coaching, I would say, no word for word, you can't do it. But what we've evolved into is saying, okay, go ahead, write it out word for word. That's great. Get it just like you wanted. And then what I'm going to push you to do is pull the outline from that word for word and put that away and pick out the phrase or pick out the words that when you see that word, when you think of that phrase, you know what that section is about. And what that means is every time you practice, it's actually going to come out slightly different. And that's the beautiful part of the conversation that you're having, because the audience can tell that it's conversational. Now, I do train speakers to memorize the first couple of sentences just to get them going in their opening story or their opening, whatever the emotional opening is. And I also ask them to memorize the last couple of sentences so they land the plane well. And then in the middle, we just have them memorize an outline and it flows much better. And then we practice the heck out of it, so that you feel confident going up there. But there is this, and I think in dentistry especially, because, the dentist I want working in my mouth or the hygienist I want working in my mouth, I want them to be a perfectionist. I hope they are a perfectionist. But that perfectionism stops a lot of professionals from doing really some amazing things that they could do in their career because they feel they need to be perfect. And on the stage, it's not about being perfect. It's about developing the skills to have a really solid conversation from the stage with your audience that day. And that's learnable and doable.
One of the things that I'm really good at, and I think it's a topic we wanted to discuss, was I'm very good at selling without selling. Okay. I really have the knack to really teach value propositions to the audience, and thus they then decide, hey, this is something I need because I taught value to it. So I'm curious, and I've been asked by other speakers and other professionals to teach them that aspect of it because I don't like selling from the stage and I don't sell from the stage, okay? But what is the difference between storytelling, which I'm very good at, and story selling, and how would a dental professional use that?
It's one of the most interesting concepts to me. I'm a constant student of storytelling. And I love the idea of story selling because in our industry, you and I both know we speak at conventions, a lot of associations, we sign contracts going in for those presentations that specifically state we cannot promote from the stage. And many of those associations definitely hold you to that. And really understandably, if people are coming to get dental education, they don't want it to be biased. They want it to be neutral, presented very well, and allowing the dental professional to make the best decision for their patients and their practice. So I really get it and admire it and, like you, adhere to it. However, the reason I'm speaking is not only to share that information, but it is to grow my business. I do want to get in deeper relationship with whoever is a good fit in that audience. So the way I've been able to bridge that is by this idea of story selling. So rather than saying, we've got an offer for you, 50% off of our such and such product, go here and buy it. Rather than doing that, somewhere in my presentation, I'll craft and deliver a story about a client or about a problem that occurred in a particular, whatever relates to my topic at the time. So let's say I'm doing a presentation on courageous conversations in the dental office. Instead of selling our video program on that directly, which I'm not allowed to do and really doesn't fit for that situation, I will tell a story about a typical challenging conversation and how a client brought us in. We delivered the training and suddenly that was much better. And so by doing that, I'm able to showcase what is possible with training without making the direct sale. And like you said, it's giving value, it's giving real examples, giving real statistics, and just showing through delivering value and softly promoting whatever it is. Now, let's say you're an owner and your quote unquote speech or presentation is to your team. Well, the last thing a team wants is to have anything added to their to-do list. So if you go in there with requests that they do things differently, maybe you want them to start talking more about Invisalign, or you want them to start promoting implants at a higher level, you can go in very directly, in other words, selling them on that proposition, and they will feel that it's one more thing they have to shove into their already overly busy day, versus leading with a story about how talking about implants to a particular patient changed their life, or how bringing in Invisalign not only changed the lives of these actual patients, but also created an amazing event that the practice could afford to do for their employees. So the story of that success lands better and produces better results than if you directly sold the request to your team. So story selling, using story to promote your objective, is a fantastic. We think in stories, Lynn. Human beings think in stories, in pictures. And so it's hard to create a picture when you say, do this, buy this, order this, But when you paint a picture of success with that, and there's human faces and human beings and human emotion, then people can visualize it and they feel it. And when they feel it, that's when they start to move.
Got it. So as we wrap up, I want to ask you one more question, and then we'll jump into the other Q&A I wanted to do. So one of the things I know you wanted to talk about was how do I create inspiration, hope, or alignment during your presentations?
We've talked about it already, many of the things. Story does it. And I think for sure, less is more. In speaking, less is more. So the tendency is, for many dental professionals, is to speak the same way they learned in dental school. And in dental school, we're trying to get through the textbook, we're trying to get through the curriculum, we're trying to get through the material, and we're shoving a lot at you really fast. On the stage, less is more. Our job, this is one of my favorite original quotes. Our job when we take the front of the room is to make the complex seem simple. To make the complex seem simple. So a lot of dentists, dental hygienists, dental professionals are speaking about things that are complex. Even when we speak on conflict management within culture, within a dental organization, it can be a complex topic. My job is to make it seem simple, doable, and easy to have success with. And so less is more from the stage. So that's one way. Because the end result is you want your audience to walk away going, wow, for the very first time, even I feel like I could do this. If your people walk away thinking, I think I could do this, and I actually feel inspired to do it, you've done your job. You have done your job. Now, they may not have everything. It may take more training to become get mastery at it, but you've done your job in that moment, which was to create clarity, not confusion. The confused mind always says no, and too much information, and they say no internally. So you've clarified it, you've simplified it, and you've created inspiration. So I always end my presentations by shutting off my slides and looking at the audience directly, taking a breath and saying, I want to leave you with this. You have everything you need to nail this. You have everything you need to master this important skill. And not only do I know you can do it and believe in your ability to do it, but what I most hope is I've ignited a spark within you so that you now have a burning desire to do it. And you have the feeling you almost must do this. And I know that you can, and I'm your biggest champion. And when you leave, so it might not be those words, Lynn might use different words, but the idea that I've been really clear with a few simple steps and action points that they can take to solve this issue, whatever we're trying to help them do in my speech, and how I end is with this moment of hope. Like, don't leave that out. people want to be inspired. I've had dental speakers say to me, well, I'm not Tony Robbins. I'm not like you, Katherine. I'm not a motivational speaker. And I say, well, actually, I disagree. Because whether you're talking about a technical subject, a piece of equipment, technology, it doesn't really matter. Our job, if we're going to take the front of the room about that, is to motivate and inspire our people to take a step in this direction, isn't it? And so in a way, we might not be a personal growth motivational speaker, but we certainly should be an inspirational speaker around our topic. And that's how you do it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we're running out of time. I want to hit this Q&A with you very fast. You don't need long-winded answers. We're very quick. We'll get through a bunch of these questions and then we'll end the podcast. So how do you know when you have the right idea?
I feel it in my gut and I'm settled about it. That's when I know.
What profession do you think is the most undervalued today?
I think dental assistants are tremendously undervalued. And I think some of that is in large part due to their own definition of themselves.
Okay. Who has been your greatest inspiration?
One was the first dentist I ever worked for called me to a much higher standard. Many people who've heard me speak have heard me tell this story, but he called me to a very high standard, and I didn't realize at the time the career path he set my feet on. So very indebted to him. Great inspiration. The second would be as a speaker's coach and just business coach. Mark LeBlanc has been a tremendous small business coach and speaking coach for me.
Got it. I had a feeling that's who you were talking about. So how do you capture and keep track of ideas? Do you keep a notebook? Do you have voice memos?
Yeah, I actually use OneNote in my computer, but I have notebooks everywhere. I have one in my car. I have one in when I put my makeup on. I have one by my bed. So I have one by the TV, so I have little notepads, and then every morning I bring those together and make sure they get into OneNote and get prioritized.
Got it. What book have you read multiple times that you recommend others read?
Crucial Conversations has been one I've read several times, and The Power of Now.
Okay, 2 good books there. What one skill or trait do you feel is imperative to be successful?
Consistency.
If you were to write a book about yourself, what would you name it?
Oh, goodness gracious. How a Texas girl went around the world and came back to her roots, or something like that.
Okay.
But that's a hard one.
No, these are hard questions. And last but not least, how do you define success?
I define success as feeling alive every day, feeling that I'm making a difference. And when the alarm clock goes off, feeling like I want to jump out of bed and that I can't believe I still get to do what I do. That's success. And when it stops feeling that way, then I'll be done.
Well, you were an awesome guest. How can people who are listening or watching reach out to you for help? Do you have something you want to offer them as well? Let me know the best way to contact you, or let them know the best way to contact you.
A couple of things. We do have some resources, and I will send you a QR code, Lynn, to put in the show notes, that if people would like some articles I've written on speech construction, on storytelling, where to find stories, where to put them, how to tell them, things like that, then we have a little bucket of resources that people can get for free. So I'll send a QR code for that. If you'd like to learn more, you can go to lionspeak.net. To learn more about our training and speaking skills, as well as other communication skills coaching that we do. And we just did release a video program. It's an on-demand learning program called the Inspirational Speakers Video Course. It's in short 10 to 15-minute modules, and it helps people who want to organize their content and their information, learn how to tell better stories, learn how to move with purpose on the stage, and to upgrade their confidence, and land their message. I'm really proud of it. And we would love to offer your listeners 15% off of those products. So if they go to Lion Speak and go to the speaking tab, then if they want to order something, they can use the code LION15, and that will take 15% off of anything on the speaking products that we offer.
I appreciate that. I know the audience do appreciate that. You were awesome. This was a great episode. Thank you so much. Guys, if you liked this episode, please share it with colleagues. Anybody you know that may want to get into speaking, please tell them to listen to this episode so they can hear more about Katherine's expertise on the subject matter. Please review us. Please subscribe to the episodes that come out Friday at 5 a.m. Also, remember, I'm having an event in Delray Beach, Florida, September 29th and 30th, 2023, called Supercharge Your Dental Practice. It's a business and marketing event. Go to superchargeyourdentalpractice.com to check out more information about it, and use the code RAVING, as in Raving Patients, RAVING, to save $100 on registration. Tickets are on sale now for the event. And remember, your reputation matters. Thank you so much for joining me, Katherine, and we'll talk to everyone soon.